Today, we're joined by Antoine Leprince, the Global Senior Director of Revenue Operations at Botify, which is an enterprise SEO platform that brings brands and buyers together at scale by maximizing online discoverability through organic search. Antoine, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Sarah. Nice to meet you.
So, Antoine, I really think you're the perfect person for our conversation today because we're going to talk about the operations behind enterprise sales. And like I said, you are running revenue operations right now at Botify, and you're also one of the heads of the Business Operations Network, which is an online community of revenue ops professionals in France. So, tell us a little bit more about that and tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, sure. At Botify, I handle the full RevOps and Enablement department. So we manage for the global team in the US, EMEA, and APAC, all the system, data, processes, and strategy for all revenue-related teams. So from marketing to CX, and also, of course, sales also.
Yeah. And then with the business operations network, what made you want to run that community and what kind of engagement have you seen from that?
Yeah, so it has been created, I think, 5 years ago by Aude Cadio, and I joined it very early. During that time, we were maybe 200
Okay.
people in the community. I joined because it was there is a lot of value to share insight
Yeah.
and learn from peers. And now I think we are close to 2,000 in the community, and mainly in France, all ops, mainly RevOps,
Yeah.
sales ops. So yeah, it's really great to talk about. We have everyone of the kind of same topic, so it's really nice
Yeah.
to share.
Well, for sure, it's definitely a useful resource. I know I go on there regularly and I look at the Salesforce channel. Different questions about how to create reports, how to do certain things. So it's definitely been useful for me. But to kick our conversation off today about the operations right behind enterprise deals, when managing these kinds of deals and these kinds of opportunities, how do you navigate the involvement of multiple internal departments to ensure a more seamless collaboration and avoid potential bottlenecks in the sales process?
Yeah, so that's definitely a huge issue for
Yeah.
enterprise deals and also at Botify for sure. We saw that last year the sales has to sales twice the
Mm,
product, once with the prospect for sure, and once internally also,
okay.
because you have to really discuss with the legal team, with the RevOps, with the product
Mm,
sometime because we have technical issue. So it was really a complex process. So we try
mm,
to smooth everything for them. It creates also a lot of Slack conversation, and as
yeah.
we know, when you do conversation on Slack, one time you have everyone, sometimes you miss someone, and after you lose the information.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a mess. So what we try to do to leverage that is to build more channel
Mm,
and to use the workflow builders within Slack to have some form to
mm,
unify the conversation. Because yeah, that's a complete thing to just make sure that we have everybody in the room or in the same channel to make the deal go faster and
mm.
to improve the velocity for sure.
Yeah. Because yeah, if I understand what you're saying correctly, there's the external conversation that's happening where the salesperson is speaking to their prospect. And then you mentioned, I think it's interesting the way you put it. You said you have to sell it internally then as well,
Yeah,
right?
it's a caricature, but yeah, for sure,
Mm,
because sometimes you have always some legal discussion that
yeah.
is not a standard legal contract, but also you have some technical issue that you want to overcome because we are really a technical solution. So
Mm,
there is plenty of new use cases. So you have to talk with the product, with the technical team to make sure that it's possible or we can find a solution. So yeah,
mm,
for sure. On enterprise deals, it's sometimes a long run, and that's why I think we need to ease the conversation and all these
mm,
kind of small things, and that's the role of the RevOps also to try
mm,
to have not have silo and have
yeah.
the answer for the main use cases, and to help them go faster with the prospect for sure.
Yeah. And if I understood correctly as well, at Botify, your way of doing that was by introducing Slack and Slack forms Is that what you're preferring internally over like an internal ticketing system? Or is it that you have an integration where people can create tickets via Slack?
Yeah, we have a ticketing via Slack because I think now Slack become more and more the central platform where
Yeah.
it's even a CRM today where everything as a starting point start within Slack with a form that will goes to a channel where everyone could have a visibility on the deal, on the sales process. But also a lot of automation with Salesforce because of course they bought it, so they
Yeah.
acquired it. So to launch those automation, I think it's the starting point. And we know that everyone within the company is really know how to use Slack, and it's a reflex. While sometimes it's not always the case for
Yeah.
others.
Yeah. I mean, definitely, I think what's really coming from what you're saying is the importance of communication, right? Communication tools, internal communication, but also the fact that that can give certain challenges, right? That can then hinder our sales deals. As you mentioned, right? If we're messaging on Slack, maybe after a certain period, those messages no longer exist or we can't really find the message. So can you share some strategies that you're implementing for streamlining communications across various channels? So we spoke about Slack, but it can also be email, it can also be LinkedIn, and to centralize this information to maintain momentum and a certain level of velocity throughout your sales cycles.
Yeah, so the main one, I think it's about deal desk. So there is different type of this deal desk. The first one, it's also about deal scenario. So to make sure that we scope the deal for the customer, and the RevOps is really helps a lot on this. And there is also the finalized deal desk when the sales could ask for changing a bit the scope for a specific customer. And for this one, it was quite a long process before we implemented it in Slack, where everyone uses Slack channel, send a request, but never the same format, never explaining the ask properly. So that's where we launched the first workflow builder. So really, the sales or the AM will fill in a form directly on Slack, and it will push a message on the Slack channel with a unified format to make sure that it's understandable easily for everyone. And then we push a lot of automation also to ping the right people to have a look at the message in order to really save time for everyone. And that improve a lot the velocity and the way we deal internally of exceptions and things like this.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I'm curious, do you have any KPIs or any data points on maybe how that improved your sales process before and after? Like, did it make it a certain percentage faster? How did that work out?
Yeah, we start monitoring the time. It was a bit complex before, but we know that on average it takes up to 1 to 2 weeks sometimes to complete really an ask, especially when it's complex. But now it goes really faster to 1 day or two. So and it could imply also multiple departments like revenue, services, but also as I mentioned the product too.
Yeah. And I'm sure that's created a higher level of satisfaction then for your prospects and for your customers.
Yeah, the goal with that at the end is that to make sure that we have the better velocity and to make sure that we don't lose the momentum and that it's easy to buy Botify and not the contrary. So yeah, that's the goal at the end. It's to make the customer happy.
Yeah, and another way, obviously of making Botify easier to buy is by having the proper data and the proper analysis to help your teams make better informed decisions, right? So in your opinion, what specific tools and data analytics do you find to be the most effective in tracking the sales cycle of enterprise deals? And how do these contribute to the accurate forecasting and decision making within revenue operations?
Yeah, today we don't have a bunch of tools. We use mainly Salesforce, and I think that Salesforce improved a lot regarding forecasting and on the specific forecast object. What it was really basic 2 or 3 years ago, but they developed a lot of feature within it. So that's the main entry point for us to monitor it. But for sure, today we forecast mainly with Salesforce and with some data we have in Salesforce. And that's the main entry point, and we don't add anything else from now for the forecasting.
Okay. And when you're saying you're using Salesforce, are you already leveraging some of the tools that they built with things like Einstein, for example, or is it really just the basic Salesforce reporting for the moment?
No, for the moment, it's the basic Salesforce reporting. We want to put Einstein. And for the forecasting, I liked how Tony Olben from Growbox talk about it. He talked about 3 types of work forecast. The one from the rep directly, that's it's the standard one for sure, but difficult at the beginning of the quarter. Then the AI based, but this one, it's a long time to build, to be fully ramped up on it, because you have to train the AI. And then we use a lot the RevOps one, which is really the last one. It's a combination of historical data that we analyze as RevOps team, and also with the sales director and the CRO.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting thinking about how there's different levels of it, and then also too, I guess, where AI would fit into it on the individual level and then also on the team level. Is that a difference that you're thinking about today?
Yeah, definitely. There is plenty of layers and a way to look at it, but we try to be as granular as we can. And today we reshuffle everything this year regarding the process and the way we can monitor the enterprise at least the stage. So by reshuffling it makes now having more visibility on it, and we need to add a time each layer on top.
Yeah, and I'm curious too, in your opinion, right? If a company is thinking about making their analytics a little bit more comprehensive, a little bit more complex, what level of maturity do you think they need to be at? Or maybe what's like a checklist, right, that they need to go through and that they need to have before adding that complexity?
Yeah, sometimes the people want to add some analytical tool too quickly without being mature on the topic. And that's why I think it's great to start with the Salesforce subject, the forecast Salesforce subject, because it's really basic. And at first, because there is everything on the data that you can improve, analyze, but if you don't have the operating cadence that goes with that alongside of it, it won't work, because there is a lot that we need to get as a bottom-up information, get from the sales, to have all the insight and make sure we follow the process. So if we don't have that, the data is not good. So for sure, we need to make sure of the process first, the operating cadence, who is involved, what we want to do, before really adding a really complex data stack on top.
Yeah, and so if I understand correctly too, what you're saying is that companies really need to have a strong basic foundation, right, for their analytics before they think about adding all these bells and whistles with AI, because like you said, that can create a really complex situation that's very difficult to manage if you don't have a very solid base.
Yeah, totally. I think sometimes, and there is plenty of tool with analytics, but it's really complex, and also you need to take some time on it to make sure that it's properly set up. So of course, RevOps are there for it, but if you don't have the adoption from the VP sales, the CRO, it doesn't make sense. So you need to onboard everyone, and that's why you need basic foundation, and sometimes small is better.
Yeah. It's interesting too that you bring that up, because with RevOps, with all the new tools coming out, you have to have a lot of training, right, to understand how they work. So how do you organize that today at Botify? How do you train your team? And then also, how do you make sure that other teams, like sales, marketing, et cetera, are also trained to a sufficient level?
Yeah, so that's why now in the RevOps department, we have the enablement team that is really in charge of this. So really to push those initiatives and within the team, and they are really close to the field team in order to enable them on the tools, but also on the processes and everything. And we try to make sure that we don't have enablement session with too many people in order to really have impact on the team. And we try to also to leverage different region in order to build some bridges between region, because we saw a lot of knowledge in the US for a specific product go-to-market, while it's different in EMEA. So we want and we push to build those bridges in order to make sure that everyone is aligned on the same process, and enable the team on the tool, use it and leverage it, all the tools the same way. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think everything that you're saying, it's highlighting the importance of the human side of these tools, which it kind of leads to my next question, which is, around considering the complexities of enterprise deals. How do you strike a balance between utilizing technology, but then leveraging human insights to ensure a more comprehensive understanding of the sales landscape and to optimize, again, this forecasting accuracy?
Yeah. So it's a bit of the different forecast type that we use. By the end of the quarter, the second half, for sure, we follow the sales and the way it feels the deals, and if we can forecast it or not. We have, of course, all the layers with the different directors to make sure that we forecast it or not. And then we have all the data we can have on the historical data and all the tools we use to gather those data and use it properly more on the beginning of the quarter and the first half, because there is less human insight at the beginning in order to make sure to have the balance between the two. It's a bit like when we work on the health score, we will have one based on the data for sure, but also on the gut feel of the AM. So it's combination of the two that it's always really important. Yeah. Because also with the gut feel, you have some people that will be more bullish, so you have to mitigate also this, and that's why you need to balance to find the right balance between the two, and that's the important.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think what you're saying is it's a bit about taking into account the timing, right? When people are giving certain information, because that can kind of impact and taint almost the data that they're inputting, and also maybe the individual personalities, right, of certain people. Like it's stereotypical, but maybe an American would be more positive, more I think I can do it, whereas our friends in France would be a little bit more pessimistic, right? So taking that into account.
Sure.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, look, Antoine, thank you so much for taking the time. But before I let you go, I have one more question, which is, what is the must-have for you to put into your digital sales room?
Yeah, the one that everything to me is really all the data points that we cannot get as a RevOps today without this digital sales room. It's all data points regarding, okay, now I know who is speaking about my company right now, or the deal. Make sure also we all agree on the next step. We can really easily know if the prospect is aligned, if he on board with it. And we also can have some warning when we may lose the momentum. And all those kind of data, we looked at it today more on the activity, but the digital sales room could definitely help having more data points that help having a kind of scoring on your deal and make sure, okay, this one for sure it's a done deal, or this one is at risk, and see the confidence. So that's, I think, I'm a data guy, so for sure we look at it first.
Well, like we at Topo completely agree. We're data people as well. And I think, what's interesting about what you said is that observing these kinds of interactions within a digital sales room helps make the measuring of momentum or the measurement of motivation a little bit more objective than maybe what it was in the past, which can help us be a little bit more accurate, right, in our sales.
Yeah,
right?
Less on the bearish or bullish, pessimistic opposite.
Exactly. Perfect. Well, look, Antoine, thanks again for taking the time and for having a really interesting conversation today. For everyone listening, please join the Business Operations Network. Please follow Antoine and everything that he's doing at Botify, because it's super interesting. And thanks again. Hope we stay in touch.
Thank you, Sarah. It's a pleasure.
Have a good day. Bye.